Welcome to another 10-minute tip brought to you by the Olson Group. This is a continuation in the series that we're doing to help you, when you're in front of your clients, know what to do, what to say, and how to really maximize the usage of those appointments, which are so hard to get. We've gone through part of our qualification process and one of our 10-minute tips, the presentation process, and this is all part of our credibility direct mail marketing program. Many of you asked and said, look, I might be going in on a veterans lead or a Social Security lead. What do I do? How do I pivot? How do I engage that prospect into the conversation so I can get into what I do best for a living? Well, of course, we're going to go over the information that they requested if it's a direct mail piece, or if they went to one of your workshops or seminars. We're going to answer questions that they have up front, but then we're going to also tell about ourselves, what we do, what makes us tick, help that credibility situation, but then we have to get into the meat. And I wanted to develop a presentation that I think could work in any setting. Now again, if I was back in the home office running a company, this would have taken about 6 months to put together, and we would have made it a masterpiece. My goal today is not to make it a masterpiece, nor is it to have you mimic everything that I say. And I'm not going to do the entire presentation, of course, in 10 minutes, but I want to give you the guts of this program, to tell you what I'm trying to accomplish. As I said in a commentary recently in review, I talked about worry buckets and lightening the load, and I made a comparison to the ox that has the yoke around its neck with the big pole carrying the two buckets, or the burro that's going up the hill, the donkey with the barrels or the baskets. They're heavy. Our clients carry around worry buckets. And as the slide says now, what we're going to do in our retirement planning and maintenance program that we have, we're going to help you, Mr. Client, lighten the load. Let's take a look. What I like to do is to tell my prospect that there are different stages in financial lifestyle planning. And you know all of these things, but I like to point them out. And if you start at the protection area on the slide, we're all working towards savings in the middle, but early in the careers of people, after they get out of school, establish their lifestyle, they start buying some insurance. Auto insurance, renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance, life insurance if they're married. They then accumulate assets to maybe put kids through school, and then they start saving for cars, whatever it might be, also their retirement, then income planning, then the income distribution, how do we let it out, and then legacy planning, what do they leave behind? Well, the next slide talks about the different challenges that they face. Well, with retirement, for pre-retirees or current retirees, they're concerned about longevity, income shortfall. They're also concerned with health concerns and cost. Inflation, the cost of goods will rise. Ask your clients how they feel about inflation, and then I want to talk to them about taxation. Do they think taxes will go up, down, or stay the same? And we want to make sure they have money for financial emergencies. I'm going to tell the client there, as we show in the slide, buckets of concern. Mr. Client, Mr. Prospect, you have buckets of concern, as we all do. Now again, I'm going to kind of race through these in this 10-minute tip, and more than happy to talk with each and every one of you. We do different webinars just on this presentation. Matter of fact, just completed one. The first one is the bucket of concern of income needs. As we talked about, where's the income coming from? Will it be enough? And I put pictures on the presentation because they're worth 1,000 words. You can see there's a house. Whether they own their house or not, or they rent, doesn't make any difference. They still have to pay property tax, things like that, upkeep on the house, utilities, their food, they want to take a vacation, and the cost of drugs. And we also need to help them separate between their wants and their needs. Nothing wrong with wants, dreams, and goals. We want them to do that. That makes people vibrant as they continue to age. But we also need to make sure that we know the difference between essential and discretionary spending. Another bucket of concern, final needs. You know, a lot of people really just don't even have anything put away. But let's get a prepaid funeral, let's get a funeral trust, let's get enough life insurance to make sure, Mr. Prospect, that you're not a burden on your heirs. And let's also don't put them through the trauma. What if we do some planning, make sure we have the wills, thoughtful trust, all of those things put together, we can refer you to a good elder law attorney. Long-term care, chronic illness. You know, this is becoming a bigger and bigger deal. We need to make sure that they understand that there's a lot of ways that we can assist them in paying those expenses should they come about. And we'll talk later about it. It could be long-term care, but many people are not buying it, only 7% of the public. Here's another slide, buckets of concern, the living memorial, the legacy. let's talk about what do they want to leave behind and how do they have those dollars positioned today. Could be property, could be investments, could be annuities, could be money in a bank account. And you know, the most important thing with a legacy is we like to suggest that our clients write things down, because it's more than the dough you leave behind. It's what you know, what you leave, your character, the memories. Let's make sure that we help our clients feel good about what they're doing and also meet their objectives. Risk management is another bucket of concern. Make sure they've got their homeowners, their renters insurance, their automobile insurance. They're getting a discount for the two. I don't sell property and casualty insurance, and probably you don't either, but we know someone, that's part of the job. Another bucket of concern are emergency dollars, liquid. We need to talk to them about making sure if the roof goes bad or if they need a new heater, air conditioner, we have those monies available. So as you can see on the slide here, I have in this slide the buckets of concern that we talked about, all 6 of them. Well, then what we're going to do is we would talk more about each of those and review those. But I like to ask my clients right now, hey, take a piece of paper, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and write down, based upon what we've talked about today, and don't show each other, what is your biggest bucket of concern, your big worry bucket? What keeps you up at night? And don't show each other, please. Don't show each other yet. And I want them to put that to the side. That's my first close. I want a buy-in. Well, let's take a look at some of the sources of money for these buckets. The income bucket, as you can see, it's employment, if they're still working, part-time income, Social Security, pensions, investment income, annuities, and don't forget the Veterans Aid and Attendance Benefit could also be an income source. The emergency bucket, the emergency money bucket, CDs, short-term annuities that Mr. Klein are very similar to a CD, except they're tax advantaged, money market funds, money that we can get to easily. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, I don't want you to think that these next 4 buckets are important. They're on the one page, but they blend together. The one would be final expenses. How can we fund those things? Well, a prepaid funeral trust is one. Prepaid funeral at the local funeral home, life insurance, cash, or your family can pay your final expenses, your kids, your grandkids, which I'm sure you don't want to do. The next is long-term care, which includes chronic illness, nursing home, home health care. You can buy a long-term care policy that unfortunately many people think is a use it or lose it. You can pay out of earnings. If you're still working, well, you're going to deplete those earnings. You can pay out of savings. Well, since you're not working, we're not going to replenish the savings and you're going to go bust. Family help, you don't want to move in with the family. You don't want the kids to pay. Veterans Aid and Attendance. There are hybrid policies out there today that are not use it or lose it. Be they annuities, be they life insurance policies, everything can be turned into a chronic illness health care benefit. And then Medicaid planning. There are ways that your assets can be protected through the assistance of qualified elder law attorneys. If in fact the state's going to pay for your benefits, let's make sure that you keep some money. And finally, as we wrap up, we have legacy. How can we provide legacy dollars for your family? Well, cash, investments, property, life insurance where $1 becomes 2, and there are other means as well. And risk management. Again, your property and casualty coverage, your health insurance, Medicare supplements, life insurance, umbrellas, drug plans, and others. As the final slide says, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, my job today is to lighten the load. Now, would you mind turning in your pieces of paper? Show me, each of you, what you consider to be the heavy loads and where do you want me to start working? Which bucket should I start to lighten? If you're interested in this kind of an approach, give us a call. That's why the Olson Group is always looked at and talked about as a different experience. And until next time, good selling.